Okay, we've taken our first steps towards getting beyond the blues, and we've been playing the rhythm changes chords. Now it's time to solo over these chords. What we're going to do is take the triads, but instead of just playing the triads, as we've been doing, we're going to make them a little more musical. So for the first chord, B flat major 7, let's just play a triad, as we've been doing in the exercises. For G7, we're going to stay in position, and we're going to play this. Now, what is that? It's basically the G triad, only we're starting on the 3rd, and we're throwing in that note. That's the 7th. We're going to talk more about the 7th in a little bit. For now, play that lick, and then when we go to C minor, we're resolving to the chord tones. Okay? For F, we're going to do the triad with the 7th again. And then it starts over. So we're going to play the B flat triad, only this time we're going to start on the 3rd. Okay? The G triad from the root into the 7th. Okay, that's C minor, the triad, but from the 3rd. And now I'm going to descend the scale. So I'm resolving to the 3rd of B flat major 7. And I'm throwing in that minor 3rd, just like we did with the blues. The blues is still there, even though we're not playing a blues form. In a way, the blues is always there. So when I put these licks together, we get this little etude. Sounds like this. I just want to point out that for the 3rd phrase, I'm starting right before the downbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And that's referencing one of the earlier licks that we did when we were looking at the blues, starting on the and of 4. Okay? So let's hear all of these patterns together over the rhythm. All right, so now it's your turn to play it with Matt and Nathan. Let's bring in the guys. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it's time to take the 1-6-2-5 progression and cut it in half. We've been playing 4-bar phrases. Most often when you hear the 1-6-2-5, you're going to hear it in 2-bar phrases. This is part of the rhythm changes progression. Before we continue, I want to mention that the rhythm changes progression has a little more to it. We're not going in depth on it. We're just getting the main riff down, which is the first few bars of the tune, the 1, 6, and 2, 5. At a later point, we'll look at rhythm changes in more detail. So for now, let's take the B flat major 7, the G7, the C minor 7, and the F7. Now each of these is now going to be held for 2 beats as opposed to 4 beats. Okay, so very slowly, it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now in the next lesson, we're going to solo over this with some patterns that are designed specifically for it. For now, let's play this with the band. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that you've got the 1, 6, 2, 5 in a 2-bar phrase under your fingers, it's time to play some patterns. These patterns are going to work well over the 1, 6, 2, 5. They're a little difficult first, so I'm going to play them really slowly. But if you look closely, they're very similar to things that we've already done. And they're mostly based on triads. So conceptually, they're not that hard. The very first lick is just a B flat major triad, but I'm going to start it after the downbeat. So most of the time, up till now, I've started licks like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. But now, right as soon as we hit the downbeat, then I'm going to play the lick. So it's going to be like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay? So you see right there, that already changes the feel. I'm going to go from that into a G triad, and then into the scale. Okay? Now each time I'm resolving to a chord tone. So that first phrase, very slowly, is this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, so that works well over the first 2 bars. For the second 2 bars, it's the same chords. Now I'm going to start on the downbeat, just to make it different. Generally, you want to try to start phrases on different parts of the beat, so it doesn't sound too repetitive. Okay, what happens there? Well, we go up the B flat major triad. We go up the G triad. Okay, the G triad is just up an octave. So when you connect them, it sounds like that. Okay, so then I'm resolving to this note. That's the minor third of C minor 7. And then the A, which is part of F7. Okay, that's our second phrase. third phrase, going down the scale. Okay, but when I get to the middle of the scale, right when the chord change happens, I'm going down the G triad. So it sounds pretty cool, but it's actually quite simple. It's just down the scale, the B flat major Ionian mode. Okay, now the G7 is happening, so I'm going down that triad. Okay, now that's a little lick. I'm resolving to the minor third of C, and then A, the third of F. Okay, that's the third phrase. And then the final phrase is this. Okay, what's happening there? Well, I'm going down the B flat major triad. Okay, I'm starting on this note, right, which is the scale tone, the ninth. And those are just triad notes. Those are just part of B flat major 7. And these are triad notes, even though this is a slightly different shape. It's really just this. G major, but from the third. Then I go up the C minor scale, resolve to A, which is part of F7, then resolve to B flat. So it sounds like a lot of information. When I'm actually playing this line, I'm not thinking about the information, I'm just hearing the melody. So one of the goals that you need to work towards here is just being able to hear and get to the point where everything's just coming from your brain and your heart. And you're not thinking about what triad it is or what scale it is. To get to that point, it takes a lot of what we're doing now, which is just practice. Let's listen to this line a little bit faster. 1, 2, 3. Okay, you hear how it makes sense when you put it all together. Then it starts to sound like music. It's going to sound even more like music when we play it with the rhythm. All right, so now it's your turn to play it with Matt and Nathan. Let's bring in the guys. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'd like to talk about chord scales now. Take a brief diversion from B flat. Everything up to now has been in the key of B flat. Briefly, I'd like to look at the key of C. There's a 7-note scale, which you all know, C major. Now, just looking at that scale, we can apply a chord to each of those. Now, if I was playing rock or folk music, I would play each chord of that scale like this: C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, G over B, which is also G with B in the bass, and C. If I descend, it sounds like this. Can you hear the scale? That's basically a harmonized version of the scale. In jazz, we tend to spice up the chords with sevenths. So if I take the C major, and I take this root, and I make that a seventh, that would be the B. Then the chord becomes this. It's a little more pretty, a little more colorful. The D minor, with the seventh, becomes this. The E minor becomes E minor 7. F becomes F major 7. The G goes from G major to G dominant 7th. I'm going to play it as a bar chord. The A becomes A minor 7. And then the G over B becomes B half diminished, which is also known as a B minor 7 flat 5. The reason it's called a minor 7 flat 5 is if you play a B minor 7 and lower the 5th, you get a B minor 7 flat 5, which brings us back to C major. Let's go back to B flat. The key of B flat would start with a B flat chord. Now this is B flat major, and I'm doing these in the rock and pop style now. B flat major, C minor, D minor, E flat major, F major, G minor, F over A, and B flat. Now there's different ways to voice these chords. I could voice my D minor like this. But for now, I'm doing them as bar chords. Now if I convert these to 7 chords, as I did in the key of C, our first chord is going to be B flat major 7. Our second chord is going to be C minor 7, D minor 7, E flat major 7, F dominant 7, or F7 as it's more commonly called, G minor 7, A half diminished, which I could also play down here, and B flat major 7, which I could play here or here. So as we go through the different lessons, you're going to hear these terms 2-5-1, 1-6-2-5, which we've already looked at. And that all applies to this. It's just degrees of the scale. So 1-6-2-5, which we've looked at, would be B flat major 7, G7, even though it's a minor 7, if I'm taking it out of context and just playing it in the chord scale. C minor 7 and F7. And a 2-5-1 would be C minor 7, F7, B flat major 7. So I know the numbers may sound confusing, but remember, it all comes from the degrees of the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's time to talk about the 2-5-1 progression, the most important progression in jazz. We went over the concept of scale degrees, and the scale degrees of a 2-5-1 are just the second, the fifth, and the root of the scale, where the second is played as a minor 7 chord, C minor 7. The fifth is played as an F7, and the B flat major 7 is the root chord. Okay, let's listen to how these chords sound when played together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now that's a sound to get used to because you're going to hear a lot of that as you learn jazz. There's a lot of really cool patterns that can be played over that. And we're going to start playing these patterns in the next few lessons. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's time to play some modes for the 2-5-1. We've looked at the 2-5-1, which is a C minor 7, an F7, and a B flat major 7. Okay, now it's time to apply a mode to each of those chords. For the 2 chord, the C minor 7, we're going to apply the following shape: C Dorian, for F7, F Mixolydian, B flat major 7, B flat Ionian. Okay, now if I play these in succession, listen to how they outline the sound of the chord progression. I'm going to play these with the backing track now. Before I go any further, just want to remind you that all the backing tracks are available for download at the support site. You can put them on a CD and you can practice along with them at your own convenience. Let's play along with the rhythm right now. Now I will descend. One more time. Now I'm going to alternate. Now I'll start descending. All right, so now it's your turn to play it with Matt and Nathan. Let's bring in the guys. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's time to expand on the 2-5-1 progression. You can play triads over it the same way we have with the previous progressions, but we're going to skip over that. You've already done all the triads for this, C minor, F, and B flat. So I recommend doing those, but we're going to take things one step further and add the 7th. The 7th is the 7th note of the scale, and it turns the triad into an arpeggio. So we had a 3-note pattern, which is now going to be a 4-note pattern. Okay? So for C minor 7, it's root, 3rd, 5th, 7th. For F, we'll do the same thing, except we're going to add the E flat, which is the 7th, and the F7 chord. Okay? And then for B flat major 7, we're going to add this note. I might play that note here, depending on the context. For now, I'm going to play it here. So when I play these together, it's going to sound a little like this. And as we did with the triads and the other exercises, we want to play them ascending and descending, and in variations. Let's look at these descending. And as we did with the variations on the triads, it's good to go up one ascending and do the next one descending. I could also start from a descent. So once again, I have a nice little map of a chord progression. Let's check it out with the rhythm. All right, so now it's your turn to play it with Matt and Nathan. Let's bring in the guys. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have a lot of patterns we're going to get to. We're going to combine modes and triads. Before we do that, I want to talk very briefly about the diminished arpeggio. The diminished arpeggio is something you can sneak in, and it gives you a very cool sound over the F7 chord. So if you take the F7 chord, and from the half step above, that's F sharp or G flat, you can start a diminished arpeggio, which looks like this. Now that's basically the same thing as an F7 arpeggio, which we looked at in the last lesson. The only difference is it has this note right here, the F sharp. And that gives it a little bit of tension. That's not a note you would resolve to, but it's great to sneak in. If I play the same exercise that we've already looked at, and I throw in the diminished instead of the F7 arpeggio, this is what it sounds like. Okay? Slightly different sound. Another cool thing about the diminished arpeggio is you can start it from any note because it's what's called a symmetrical pattern. So if I start it from A, I can do that. Here's what that sounds like. I can also start this pattern from C. This creates a nice little walk down. I start on C, then I play the diminished, and then I move to B flat. I could also start the diminished on E flat. Okay, so that opens up a lot of doors for playing over the 2-5-1. Let's hear it with the rhythm. So the diminished arpeggio comes from the diminished scale. We're not going to get into the diminished scale just yet, because it's pretty advanced. But the arpeggio should give you a lot to work with. You may have encountered the diminished arpeggio at one point or another with licks such as this. It's not unheard of in the rock and metal world. But when you play it in jazz, you sneak it in. And there's only these certain times where you get to use it. And the F7 is one of those times. When you're ready, let's play this with the band. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, it's time for a new concept now. Up the triad, down the mode, which is exactly how it sounds. What we're going to do is take the triads that we've looked at and ascend. But on the way down, instead of descending through the triad, we're going to descend through the mode. So if I do this with C minor 7, I'm going to take the triad, C minor, and I'm going to go down the mode, Dorian. Okay? But I'm going to go up and down without stopping, so I get this pattern. Okay, hear how that works? Let's try F. If I go up the triad, and I go down the mode, I get this. All right, it's a nice little pattern. Then the same thing works for B flat, going up the B flat major triad, down the Ionian. Okay? Once again, we can do variations. So what if we reverse it? This is going up the mode, down the triad. Okay? Same thing for F, F7. Same thing for B flat major 7. Okay? We can also start on a descent. If we start on the triad and we descend, we'll go up the mode, we get this. Okay? If we start on top and we descend the mode, we get this. Okay? Let's try those with the rhythm. Okay, once again, take some time on this. It may take a little while. We're moving pretty quickly now, and we're getting into faster changes and more activity over the changes. And let's bring in the band and see what this sounds like. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's add the 7th to the triad and do the same patterns that we were just doing in the last lesson, which is, this is going to be up the arpeggio, down the mode. So for C minor 7, we're going to get this. Root, 3rd, 5th, 7th. And we're going to descend to the Dorian mode. Okay, for F7, we're going to get this. And descending the mode. And then for B flat major 7. Okay, hear how all those flow together very nicely. Now let's ascend the mode. Now to make this even out, we're going to skip a couple notes. We're going to skip the 9th and the 11th, or the 2nd and the 4th of the mode. So we're going to go root 3rd, 5th, but then we're going to hit the 6th. And our pattern ascending is going to be this. Okay? So we're basically playing the triad, then switching to the scale, or the mode, then descending the arpeggio. Okay? And once again, you can do variations. You could start on a descending arpeggio. Start on a descending mode. Let's try these with the rhythm. Okay, it may be a lot of information to you. Once again, take it really slowly. And briefly, I just want to look at the picking pattern when I do these. Once again, I'm sweeping, right, because I have a lot of adjacent strings. Right, so these are all based on these triads and going to the seventh. So when we have these three notes together, the sweeping really creates the flow. Okay, so remember to go slowly, and we have some further variations on this that I think are going to be really cool. When you're ready, play this with the band. 1, 2, 3, 4. Up until now, our chords have mostly been two-note, very basic voicings. What we're going to do now is start expanding the chords. For C minor 7, we've just been looking at the root, the seventh, and the third. We could also add the fifth to that. It starts to sound a little more full. We could also add a root on top of that. And one of the interesting things about jazz chords is that you don't have to play the root at the bottom. If I leave out the root and I just play the root at the top, I get this. And that forms a nice little chord. For F7, if I expand this chord, okay, right now it's just root, third, and seventh. Sounds very bluesy. Well, right next to my seventh, I have this note. And this note. Okay? So this note is the ninth. This note's the fifth. And this makes it a little more colorful. And then for B flat major 7, so far we've just been looking at the root, 7th, and 3rd. But we could also add the 5th up here. We could also remove the root and play the root here. When I do this, I tend to move these notes to here. And this forms this very simple shape, which sounds nice when you put the root under it. But you don't have to play the root. If you're playing with other musicians, such as a bassist or piano player, very often they'll play the root. And you can just play these upper voicings. So if I play these 3 voicings together, no root at the bottom, that becomes my 2-5-1. All right, so now it's your turn to play it with Matt and Nathan. Let's bring in the guys. I've already touched upon scale degrees, and I've already touched upon the ninth as it relates to chords. I'd like to talk about the ninth a little further. Once again, when you do scale degrees, you're basically just playing the scale, numbers 1 through 7. So for C Dorian, over the C minor, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So then the octave is 8. The next note, the second, is called the 9. We looked at this voicing for C minor 7 with the root on top. Now the root is actually expendable. You don't need the root. That's one of the things you have to get used to in jazz, is that you don't have to play the root. In rock, when you play guitar, most of the time you do have to play the root. That's part of your responsibility. But with this, it actually sounds quite nice if I don't play the root and I play the ninth instead. Okay? So if you're playing this with another musician and they play the root, that's a nice C minor 7 voicing. It's a C minor 9. I'm going to put the root under it just so you can hear how that sounds with the root. For F7, our basic chord was this. So now with the ninth, that's this. Okay, and then we can put the fifth on top. This is a voicing we looked at earlier. Okay, so if I go from C minor 9 to F7 with a ninth, which we call F9, then I can go to B flat major 7 with a 9. This can be done this way, or this way. So right here, I'm just taking the basic voicing, root, 7, 3rd, and adding this 9. There's a lot of possibilities, and we're going to look more at those in the next upcoming lessons. We've been looking at the ninth as it applies to chords. Now I'd like to look at the ninth as it applies to some of the patterns that we've looked at before. Earlier, we took the minor arpeggio, C minor 7, and played that over the chord. Now here's an interesting thing we can do. We can add the 9 to that. And this gives us a new colorful note. So I'd like to give you this pattern starting on the 3rd. So once again, we have a 4-note pattern, but instead of root, 3rd, 5th, 7th, we're going to get 3rd, 5th, 7th root. Okay? So the same pattern for F7, 3rd, 5th, 7th root. Sorry, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9. It's going to sound like this. And then for B flat major 7, we're going to get this. If I play those together, it sounds like this. Here's the same pattern descending. Okay, it adds a lot of color. We can also ascend with this pattern and descend through the mode. Okay? So let's try these with the rhythm. Okay, for that last one, I started descending on the 9th arpeggio. And I skipped this note when I went back up the mode. There's a lot of different variations you can do. So you don't just have to do it this way, but try as many variations as you can, see what works for you. And as you start to digest these ideas, they're going to start coming out in your improvisations. So that's another important thing to understand, is that improvisation doesn't happen instantly, and it comes by just digesting ideas, learning to hear them. And I think these ideas will help you. I know they've helped me a lot. So there may be a lot to take on at first, but stick with it, and it's going to be very rewarding. Let's try playing these with the band. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we have some whole new progressions that we're going to be getting into. But before we do, I just want to take one quick look at chords and chord voicings. The subject of chords is a very dense subject. We could have a whole program, at least, just on chords. So I'm not going to get too much into that at the risk of getting overwhelmed. But I want to take a step away from these basic voicings we've been looking at. We've mostly had the root, seventh, and third voicings. Right? That's how they relate to a 2-5-1. Or earlier we had the blues. We did look at taking the root of C minor and putting it on the top. We also looked at putting it as the ninth, replacing the root with the ninth. Okay. Right now I'd like to look at replacing the root with the 11th. So the 11th, what's the 11th? The same way the ninth is the second, an octave higher. The 11th is the fourth, an octave higher. So if we go up the scale and we count to 11, okay, the octave of that is this. And when I put that on top of the C minor chord, it sounds like this. It's a nice voicing. If I go to F7, I want to be conscious of what's called voice leading, right? I don't want to go to this voicing, right? That F7 sounds totally out of place. But if I go to this, it sounds nice. So what is that? This is that same F7 that we started out with, except we've taken out the root, we've added the ninth. So then you call F7 F9 when you have the ninth. However, this note is the 13th. So just like the ninth is the second, the 11th is the fourth, the 13th is the sixth. And it sounds very nice in this case. C minor 11, F13, and I'm going to resolve to B flat major 9. Now this particular voicing is just root, 5th, 7th, 9th. There's no third. Usually you need the third, but there's exceptions. And I like the way these voicings sound together. So this is just a taste of what you can get into when you start exploring further chord voicings. Once again. That is the minor 2-5-1 progression. It's called a minor 2-5-1 progression because it resolves to a minor chord, and it has the same motion as a regular 2-5-1 progression. Our 2-5-1s that we've been looking at have been C to F7, C minor 7 to F7 to B flat major 7. Now if you look at that root motion, it's the same thing, but moved down to here on the 5th fret. Okay? So there's different ways to think of it. If you think of the minor as the 1, A half diminished is the 2, D7 is the 5, and G minor is the 1. You could also look at this as it relates to B flat major. A is the 7, the D is the 3rd, the G is the 6th. But since it follows this pattern of the 2-5-1, it's easier to just call it a 2-5-1. So the first chord is the A half diminished. We looked at this in the section on chord scales, and it looks like this. The next chord is a D7, similar to how we played it in the 2-5-1s in B flat and in the blues. And then the next chord is G minor 7. Okay, so when I play those together, it sounds like this. Now I can expand these. Just like we looked at expanding chords previously, we can take this fifth, right? This is a flat fifth of A half diminished. Remember, that chord is also called minor 7, flat 5. This is the flat 5. If I move it up an octave, I get this chord. Now, that sounds nice. It's a little bit more colorful. From there, I can go to D7. I also have the option of expanding the D7. I can put in this note. That's called a sharp 9. Some of you may have seen this chord before. It's sometimes thought of as the Jimi Hendrix chord because it was made famous in the song Purple Haze. It's also used in a lot of funk grooves. There's a lot of theory behind the name sharp 9, which we're not going to get into now because we have enough to deal with. But it is important to learn that at some point. But for now, just listen to the sound of it and listen to how it relates to the other chords. Okay? Let's hear how this sounds with the band. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't forget, all these tracks can be downloaded from the website. Download them, practice with them, and don't forget to get this level down before you move on to the next level. We've looked at the chords for the minor 2-5-1 progression. Now it's time to look at the modes. For the A half diminished, we're going to play the A Locrian mode. Here's the A half diminished chord. And here's the mode. For the D7 chord, we're going to play this scale. There's a couple different names for that. It comes from harmonic minor, Some people call this Phrygian dominant. Some people call it the Middle Eastern scale. I think of it as a mixolydian with a flat 2 and a flat 6. When we get to G minor 7, we're going to play G natural minor. There's other options for soloing over these chords, but we're going to start with these and keep it simple. Let's hear what these modes sound like together. 1, 2, 3, 4. When I play them together, they really outline the sound of the chords. I'm going to try them again, descending. 1, 2, 3. All right, now let's try it with the rhythm. All right, so now it's your turn to play it with Matt and Nathan. Let's bring in the guys. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.